freezes, that would be good. That happened to us last time, and it was like, oh.
We're popping it out.
Awesome. I mean, it's just going to be our faces again. Like, I have a map, but I don't stream it for this.
John and I were talking. We drew a map. I almost wanted to send you a picture and ask if you got it right.
Yeah, it's
been co-opted. Eleanor has chosen it.
Well, and it's funny because it's like when we were playing in person, I didn't feel bad about just rolling out a big piece of. I have like a hardback whiteboard that's like pre-lined. I can just like draw a map and throw some pieces on it and just go, and it's like, okay, these 5 goblins are elementals, and this Kinku is a fairy, and I was fine with that. And then we started putting everything on Roll20, and it was like all the maps have to be like drawn and colored, and I have to find something that matches, and it's kind of nice just being like, there's a room. This is what the room is like. I didn't have to find a map that looked like the room I imagined.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we left off. You all are not quite strangers, loosely interconnected people who, for various reasons, were drawn to Office 3E of the Kent Building at Ravenbrook University. Some incident had occurred that had brought the police there. You all sort of arrived at about the same time outside Office 3E, belonging to one Dr. Archibald Moore. And just about when you arrived, a fey demand opened across that area, and you all found yourselves in a weird mishmash space. It is partially the office that you entered, and partially some kind of primordial jungle forest with fey overtones. So you all have been your way through dinosaurs who turned out to be college students, and last time you were attacked. Really, it was just a change of texture. And last time you were attacked by fey hounds, which raised a lot of questions. You discovered that the fey hounds were likely not attacking you of their own volition. They're normally intelligent and moderately useful creatures. And after you discovered some kind of like command room had been burned into them like a brand with cold iron. You also found that the rune was of very noble origin, which made the fact that it was with cold iron very, very odd. You've advanced most of the way into this strange office forest. You've heard odd noises in various directions. Off on one side, you've heard large moving around, breaking bottles, for which you have no explanation yet. And now you're about to enter an area where you had found a slumbering Tyrannosaurus and a female figure who was doing something with art and belongings. So you all had kind of, Cyrus in particular, you'd kind of poked around trying to see what was going on a very crunchy leaf. But thankfully, Oryx's quick illusion making prevented you all from being immediately discovered. So you were able to retreat around the corner and plan out your next action. So, what do you want to do?
So we can go. We can go with the disguise plan, unless anybody came up with anything different. Who's describing to me what Archie looks like to the best of your ability?
One of these two.
What?
He's a regular charmer.
Oh.
But you're also feminine.
Okay.
Here's what I both of you know him well enough to describe him. I'm actually going to call this a performance check to see how well you can describe him. Like, you know what he looks like, but can you put it into words strong enough so Cyrus can take on that appearance?
I cannot. That's a 2.
Oh dear.
He's got a face.
He's better than mine.
I mean, you're in the neighborhood. Yeah, you,
Humbly laughs.
that's about what you've got. Big guy, redhead, bird, jovial. That's about what you've gathered.
All right.
All right, so you're gonna initiate plan fake ginger.
Yep.
Why do I feel like this is like having Barney the dinosaur walk into a group of T-Rexes? Like, I just have this little image of this is what a dinosaur looks like, and it's Barney. It's like, what we find in the scientific journal.
So in this analogy, I'm going to put Lexi into the room to start.
All right, just know I'm at 50% off right now. So.
Do I know what the professors at Ravenbrook typically wear? Suits, academic dress.
Tweed.
Tweets all that.
I would say Zyra could have told you. Archie's got kind of an old-fashioned aesthetic. So suits, but yeah, very much in sort of the the tweed, not like a modern business suit. Yeah, he's kind of guy.
Basically looks like Sean Connery in Velociraptor.
Okay.
Not too far off.
No.
All right. So you've got enough of a description. So is Dr. Archie going to enter this grove of dinosaurs and whatevers?
Yeah. And I also want to say, so I'm also using the mantle to do the tweed. I'm going to do the advantage on deception
All right.
with this one.
So this is really cool the way this works. So you all see. Were you still in like the policeman's uniform up to this point?
Yes. Yeah. My face had changed, but
Okay.
I had not changed the mantle back to the trench coat.
So you've now seen Cyrus. He is not a black police officer. He is this sort of paler, long-haired gentleman, scruffy looking, but still wearing the police uniform. Now you see the police uniform sort of waver and dissolve. And briefly you catch a glimpse of this battered dark trench coat. And then it wavers again. And you see this very nice sort of tweed suit. And Cyrus's form shimmers. And a decent vision of Archie comes out. But there's sort of a weird effect of like, Lexi and Zyra, you know what Archie looks like. You know that this isn't like 100%, but there's a weird like something about it makes you think this is Archie. Something seems right about the attire in a way that convinces you that this is Archie. All right.
We get out of here. You need to talk.
Sure. And so I am going to just like, I am not trying to sneak. I am striding purposefully into the room like I own it and shouting, "Hey, what are you doing in my desk?"
All right. So since I'm trying to sneak this time, you have a better chance to get a glimpse of what's happening in this room. So you round this corner, and there's this long sort of chain of this forest ahead of you. You notice again, trees here are glowing brighter than they have been in the rest of this pseudo forest. They have these strange sort of swirling, spiraling, whorling patterns. And in here, they're almost like illuminating the space. It doesn't look dim at all. There's real light coming off the tree. The leaves underneath you are heavy. It's just like a solid coat of leaves. And you crunch, crunch, crunch as you walk into the room. Immediately to your left, you see a pair of Velociraptors. They're sort of back of the walls / bookshelves / trees. Just kind of like... A little bit past them, you see two different sort of floating fey beings of kind. They both are roughly humanoid in shape, but they're not even the same size as each other. One is very small and kind of has this powerful glow around them. The other one is... At first, you'd almost think it's like a flying human child. It's sort of in that size category. But you realize, like, no, this is another kind of fey being. To the right of these fey beings, you're right, is the Archosaurus. This big gray-skinned Tyrannosaurus with distinctive red patterns on the jawline and sort of around the side of its head. It received that message.
Here, right? It doesn't have any.
Nope, nothing up here. Archie was a hat guy. So
I couldn't resist.
So the Archosaurus does seem kind of more active now. You'd heard it snoring before, but with Zyra's message and your crunchy leaf earlier, I almost think it has a perplexed look. It seems like it doesn't understand something, and that's only going to intensify. Further behind it, go ahead.
Well, it doesn't understand why it's seeing itself.
Yeah, that's going to be even worse. This is what it already looked like before it notices you.
Okay.
It's confused just by like where it is and what it's doing and why people are talking to it and why it's a dinosaur. It's confused. So further back, this is the room that most is sort of blurred with the office. You feel like most of the area you've traversed through, the trappings of the office have been kind of few and far between. You might just catch like a little section of bookshelf between a few trees. You saw the door, the back of the door was still there in the entryway. But for the most part, it's been mostly forest. On the far side of this room, you see what you imagine is about 50% of the office. You see the desk chair. You see credenza. Is that the right word?
A little dresser. Stuff.
Yeah. That you imagine, well, Zyra would know, it's like behind his desk where he like stored stuff.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And now that you're sort of fully walking in, you can see that there is a feminine figure with her back to you, and she's going through some cardboard boxes that were like put up on this space. She seems very frustrated, and she's looking and looking, and you notice several things about her. One, she is approximately the same skin tone as the trees. This sort of weird, deep blue violet color. And she actually has sort of matching patterns that are glowing slightly. The second thing is that her hair seems to be a coat of leaves that's just draping all the way down her back. It seems like the leaves are also making up her attire in some way. The last thing you notice is sort of through the leaves, you can see something glowing on the back of her neck. So that's the room. So you walk in. You say, "What are you doing at my desk?"
Yeah.
Would you say that this is more deception or intimidation? I'll let you pick your favorite.
Yeah, deception.
All right. So you're gonna roll with advantage to convince them that you're Archie, which is perplexing on many, many levels.
20.
All right. I'm going to do an opposed insight check, and this will sort of give us a baseline for how this is going to go. So everyone in the room stops moving and turns and looks at you very confused. And the you see specifically the Velociraptors and the two smaller Fae, they see you. There's a look of confusion. They turn to look at this leaf-draped woman. So she turns around, and now she's looking at you. There's a moment of major confusion here. And the Archiesaurus totally lost. He currently has an intelligence of 2. He can't figure out what's happening. So you have this moment of confusion. What do you want to do next? We're just going to call this stunned silence for the moment.
Yeah. So all right, so I'm gonna keep striding to the room. I want to get deeper in, and I'm gonna be looking around and look. This is all wrong. You have made a mess of things. You have turned my research assistant into Tyrannosaurus Rex. You have a couple of my students as raptors. I don't know what you are playing at, but you made a mess of things, and you need to send them home immediately.
So how far in do you want to go? The desk and this feminine figure are over 100 feet back into this room.
Yeah.
If you want to get all the way to them, you're going to pass the Archiesaurus very closely, and you're going to have to walk past Velociraptors and the other two Fae.
Okay. Yeah. I don't need to go all the way to the desk.
Are you just trying to get in 30-foot range?
I remember what.
Yes. The answer is yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes.
Yeah. It's like 90 is good, 80 is good, 30 is good.
Well, they're going to have very different effects.
Yeah.
I can put you at 30. You are briefly connecting the room because no one understands what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go all the way to 30.
All right. So you can kind of feel, well, so just to paint the portrait, you're walking past the Velociraptors.
Mm-hmm.
These two Fae are now standing like. I say standing. They're both floating. They're like. Flap, flap, flap. The Archosaurus is now starting to get up. Boom. It's sort of sniffing at you a little bit, very confused. The woman considers you for a second. And she walk forward.
I'm gonna try to give the Tyrannosaurus a look and just give him that. Don't worry, we're gonna get you home soon.
If it helps, I will message friend.
That probably helps more.
Yeah, to say I was gonna have you warn the Tyrannosaurus Rex about me. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to imagine someone convey a secret message to their dog. You know, like.
One of my specialties is conciseness. Friend.
So he hears friend, he hears it in a familiar voice, and it kind of like calms him a little bit. So this one begins to walk towards you, and the leaves in the room start to react. As she steps forward, there's a little wind that kicks them up, almost in like a circular shape around her. And it forms like a corridor from her to you. And as she walks towards you, these leaves swirl past your face, and you start to feel disoriented. Make a wisdom saving throw.
Uh-oh. Six.
Oh.
You're glad that you came this far into the room. This is your friend. Of course you were coming to meet her. You had to be here in case she needed something, or in case you had to protect her. What if someone came and tried to hurt her? That would be terrible.
Oh dear.
You are now charmed. You regard this figure as a trusted friend to be heeded and protected.
I have advantage on charm effects.
Okay, so you can roll again then.
Here he goes.
Oh no!
Almost a 15. It almost stopped on the 15.
The digital dice being cocked is the most frustrating thing in the world. Like, they intentionally programmed it to sometimes, like, fall on a different number. Someone made that choice.
Oh, yes, they did.
Oh, yeah, so this is your good friend. You can't remember her name or if you've met before, but you know this is your friend. So the rest of you see this start to head forward. The faux Archie storms into his office/forest, demands that they step away from his desk. There's a moment of silence and confusion, and then you see the woman turn. You see this flurry of leaves, and then you see him kind of like, and then nothing happens.
Firebolt?
I don't think so. What if we just all go in together? So here's my thing. The Velociraptors did not attack Archie, the false Archie, the thing that keeps changing. And Archie himself isn't in purpose. And the Fey creatures that are floating over there will be able to deal with them better if we're closer to them. And so I'm wondering if it would do us the best work if we were to all go in together and say, oh, gee, I mean, it is the openness of the room. We still, admittedly, this feminine figure does seem to have done something wonky with her. But with our Archie, this Archie, there's nothing with our Archie, but we don't know what. But he's not believing, and he hasn't followed me for, and we don't believe he's going to attack us because he hasn't turned around and so I think that would be our best bet, is to at least put the four of us in one space together, so that we, rather than attacking someone who hasn't technically attacked us yet.
Do I recognize what kind of face she is?
Having seen this and kind of seen how this has unfolded, all three of you who currently have your senses can make a Arcana check. And as they're sort of making this plan, Cyrus has this very his brain fills with fog, and fog smells like pine and maple. It smells like trees and deep forest. And this woman walks up to you, and her weird blue-green hand just sort of runs a finger down the side of your face, kind of like sort of a weird, disgusted look, and is now like, she was stepping in close, and then she kind of stepped back and is like, has her nose turned up at you. You're a little hurt by this, that your friend is being so standoffish.
You smell.
So the rest of you watching them go, oh, it's a dryad. It's a forest fae spirit who embodies trees. Deep forests. And there's sort of a whole spectrum of dryad, ranging from like ones that are smaller and more like sprites. This is sort of like the middle of the dryad family. It extends all the way up to like hamadryads, not HAMA, not MAMA, hamadryads, and even higher into like whole archfays of nature and forests in the woods. They are known for their natural charm abilities. This does... Go ahead.
We recognize the two floating characters to be of this... Oh.
They seem to be of a different family of fae. Not necessarily like a different court, like not that far apart, but they don't seem to be sort of the same type.
When in doubt, I blame pixies.
And in somewhat unusual fashion, dryads are capable of charming multiple creatures at a time. And so you would suspect that she's somehow at the core of some of these strange behaviors that you're seeing. All right, so were you all wanting to just sort of walk into the room? Or is this more of like a battle cry in charge?
I can't help anymore.
Greetings, fair one.
So I'm going to put you into the room a little ways. Are Auric and Lexi kind of following behind?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you prefer to get sort of the entrance of the chamber yelling back? Or do you want to try and like walk past the Velociraptors, but be a more reasonable distance?
Past the Velociraptors, flank with the Archosaurus.
All right, I'll get you all down to fairly close to the Archosaurus. There's a lot of things in the middle of this map now. So the creature considers you for a moment. What language does Zyra speak?
She's updated. Common, Elvish, Gnomish, Goblin, Sylvan.
Okay. Which language are you speaking now?
Common. But if it doesn't work, then I'll speak Sylvan.
Yeah, she's making kind of a strange, like, evaluating. There's sort of a weird sway back and forth. And it immediately brings to mind like a light tree, like a young willow or something that's kind of gently in the breeze as she looks at you. So you say it again in Elvish, Sylvan?
Sylvan.
Sylvan. Visitors. Why are there two of the ruddy one?
Why? I'm not sure which Ruddy one you're talking of. Why are you in the Ruddy one's office?
Just
to see if it'll mirror.
just regarding a few things.
Is there anything we can help you find?
No, I think I've almost found it now. As she keeps swaying it starts to have more of an ominous feel to it. It goes a little bit from like willow in the breeze to like cobra in the basket.
Can you tell me what's going on with the large one?
Oh, he was much more pliable in this form. I do enjoy these creatures. It's been so long since we've seen them. A bit of nostalgia.
Memory.
The memory of is long.
Rings and rings of it.
The other red one was he had a song in his heart. This one has an unpleasantness. Think that he should remain here much longer.
Question then. The songs you're singing, how long until you're ready to go return? Is there a way we can help you return home?
Oh, I'm afraid there's no returning home for me yet. No, not until you can actually smell wood smoke. and the glow on the back of her neck becomes more visible. And you can actually see a little bit of smoke, like senses.
Are you all right? Is that hurting you?
I was going to say she's fine.
Is what hurting me?
The back of your neck.
The back of my.
Can I cast healing word on the back of her neck?
Ooh, make your best check of Arcana or Medicine.
18.
So, you're able to reach out through this word of power, and you've done this a few times now. You're getting a feel for what it feels like when these words connect and sort of unleash their meaning. And you feel it reach out through the air and slams up against something. And actually, it's the exact same feeling as when you tried to cast that sleep spell against the Fey Hounds. Your magic, this magic is controlling her, are in conflict with each other. But for just a minute, you feel it connect. And you can actually feel as part of what you assume to be the same sigil on the back of her neck starts to heal. And for a second, she looks relieved and confused and frantic. Oh no. Oh, you have to get out of here. You have to. And she gestures, and there's a little swirl of leaves, and Cyrus's brain kicks back on.
Yay!
Oh, but you have to leave right now. You have to leave before this time there is. You will see flame like licking up from the back of her neck and scorching some of the leaves that run down her back and shoulders. What was I saying?
Can I back up?
Make a check. I mean, obviously you're not hiding, but this is just like the nonchalant, like walk.
9.
Man, the digital dice.
Still dice.
I'm not rolling these anymore.
They are after you.
You can't use the dice on the computer.
She says, "No, I don't think we'll be having any more of that. You can't leave." And she snaps her fingers and roll for initiative.
Great. Please, let's just incapacitate her. She's not in control.
Oric.
Ah,
I got a 20.
Got a
20.
20. All right.
4.
Zyra 12. I love the game log on here, though, where it pops up all of your all's rolls. Like, it is really.
And
I keep using the dice because I like that.
I know it's difficult. I mean, if you have different sets of digital dice, you can actually switch them out, which is sort of a nice indication of like, no, you're in jail.
Yeah.
All right. So, the first thing that happens is the medium size. Oops, I gotta make sure I don't have these sizes backwards. Nope. Okay. the slightly larger floating fae, it's looking really confused. It doesn't quite know, like, you can see it warring on its face, like, are we fighting? Feels like we're fighting. Are we fighting? Oh, I guess we're fighting. And it pulls back an arrow, and then it disappears.
What happens to the arrow?
You don't know, because it disappeared.
Is that the one that looks like a floating baby?
Yes.
Okay.
Cyrus is now in love.
And just to clarify, it's not Cupid. It's just like approximately the dimensions, but it has a thinner frame than that. It's funny how the folklore and imagery overlap so much. It's hard to like not point in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So Cyrus, you were already sort of ocean, so you are next.
Okay. So, am I still engaged with the?
So you are about 15 feet back now.
Okay.
She walked all the way and sort of done the awkward, like, you know, the creepy villain touch. Did not like whatever it was, and then took a step back from you, and you had
Okay.
started to kind of backpedal on your own. So you're starting off about 15 feet away from her.
Okay.
And just to sort of make it clear, sort of where everything's situated, you are sort of at the middle of all of the enemies. The Velociraptor are about 50 feet back towards the entrance from you, the sides of this forest chamber. Archiesaurus is immediately to your right. He's about 15 feet away. The center of the floating fae is to your left. The Dryad is sort of loosely out in front of you. And the one that just disappeared was about 30 feet behind you. You don't know where it is now.
Okay. Decide if I want to use my last spell or not.
As Cyrus is thinking about this, you all do notice all of the leaves in this room are agitated now. They were sort of laying along, almost like a carpet across this room. And now it's like there's it's like seeing a breeze that you can't feel. Without any sort of like impression on your person, you see leaves like swirl up into little spirals and eddies and drip across the room.
All right. I'm gonna hex Dryad and shoot her at 30 feet.
All right. She definitely does not like that. So that actually puts you like, that gets you all the way back to the group and sort of like behind Auric now. So you're kind of at the back of the party. So you unleash the hex, and this black shadow billows out of you again, and you don't see it, but you hear the sound of birds up above.
So how does she 23 to hit?
Not like it.
9 piercing and 3 necrotic.
Whew. She is immediately not in great shape. But she's going next.
Oh no.
Got it.
So the blow hits her, and at first you're not sure it's going to get through. Like you see now that this tree-like texture to her skin, tough as bark. But it manages to sink through, and that sort of, it's actually very close to the blood you saw come off of the Fey Hounds, but it's almost like opalescent sap starts to bleed out of her. And now the bird sound becomes louder, and they descend, and they peck, and they scratch at her. And she's like fighting them off. And she fixes an angry look at you. And she's going to walk over. She walks over to the Archosaurus. And she's going to make a saving.
Uh-oh.
The Archosaurus has better than Cyrus. So you see her walk over, and the leaves kind of billow and follow after her, and she sort of drapes a hand across the Archosaurus, and the leaves suddenly like shoot up around it, and you see it start to kind of lull, like, and then it shakes its head and gives her a look like,
You're so confused that
whatever she wanted to happen did not happen.
But she might have made him angry.
So in that case, she is going to she's going to use the rest of her movement to start heading towards the edge of the woods here. All right. It is the Archosaurus's turn. Let's see. 1, 2. Somebody roll a 1d10.
10.
The Archosaurus looks confused and does nothing. It just kind of like it's looking at everything in the room. It doesn't know what to do about it. And so you can feel kind of like the cleverness of Archie that you reached out to is pushing against this charm magic, and the mind of this of jovial scholar and the tiny actual processing brain of a Tyrannosaurus, it can't. It has too many feels, and it doesn't have enough brain.
I mean, it's basically a giant chicken, so, you know.
Pretty much. It's a giant chicken that's sure it's supposed to be a person. I'm sure that's fine psychologically.
yeah, and is looking at itself.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
It has a lot going on right now, is what I'm saying. It is Zara's turn.
Zara wants to know if she can mount Archie's. Would you like me to roll animal handling? I do not have any mounted, any riding, anything proficiency.
Let me just look mechanically at how tall this creature is.
I would like to remind you, I'm flanking the Archie, so my movement would be just mounting the Archie.
That is the length of it. What's the height? Come on.
It's like 15.
Oh, wait.
10?
I found it. Size range of this creature. Really? They only measure them in length. Like they're fish.
Yep.
Okay. It's not as ridiculous as I So make an animal handling check.
Oh, 22.
All right. So how do you convince the Archosaurus to let you on?
So, so I'm going to say, well, friend, and like, consent thing going on, friend, friend, here you smell my neck or whatever.
Really help me out here.
Right. And mount the Archosaurus.
All right. As I pull up mounted combat rules, which I didn't think were going to come up tonight. So mounting uses half your movement.
Okay.
I would think that convincing it and getting up there is probably your action. Because it is a large creature to...
Okay, that's fair.
you do still have a bonus action if you want to do something with it.
I'm going to give my final bardic inspiration to Cyrus.
All right.
In our mode of creation, I've switched my college, for those who are not at home, and I've switched my college of my bardic college to College of Creation. So now there's a mote of creation hovering around Cyrus. You'll get to learn what that means later.
It is very cool.
I kind of like it.
So Xyrus speaks another of these words of power, and this one doesn't immediately, like... It's not clear immediately what it does. It, like, manifests into the air and then begins to just sort of, like, gently hover in the air above Cyrus.
It may be moving a little bit with the wind, the invisible wind of the trees, but it's definitely sticking.
And as the wind blows over it, there's, like, faint chimes. It's very peaceful, minus literally everything else happening.
Despite some chaos, there's
Just as a reminder for everybody. All right, so that's Ira's turn, who is now on top of the Archosaurus. It is Oryx's turn.
All right. So let me make sure I got the layout of the room right.
What?
Back behind us towards the door are a couple of raptors.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately next to us is the Archosaurus with the riding Zyra.
Yep.
Further back beyond the Archosaurus is the Dryad.
Yep. And the one Fae that you can still see is sort of to your left, about 20 or 30 feet. And the Archosaurus is now between you and the Dryad.
Okay.
She's about 45 feet back. He's 30-ish.
What I'm going to do is probably really stupid.
oh, great.
Right next to the Archosaurus, I am going to cast my illusion to basically shout in Draconic. Now, I understand that dinosaurs are smart and probably don't speak Draconic anyway. But the idea here is to get them riled up and running away from us. So I'm basically...
The raptors?
To all the dinosaurs.
Okay, so you are aware that one of the dinosaurs is being driven by a party.
Let's do this. Let's do it.
Make sure.
Basically, right next to Archosaurus's ear, way up in the air, is going to be a massive Draconic shout, which I doubt he understands Draconic, but it's going to be saying in Draconic, smash the trees as angrily as possible.
Food for a dog.
Yes.
So I'm going to call this, this is an animal handling check.
Okay. Well,
All right. I'm going to set that as a saving throw. They're going to roll against it. I'll do the Velociraptors first because... Are they not on my list? They disappeared between the list and when I did it. I manual entry.
Sorry, Zara.
I'll remember this.
It was either that or start burning things.
You could have burned things.
I really think that would have been a better idea. Just saying.
Okay.
I mean, I don't understand why it's not going to burn things on her turn either.
I
So,
can't burn things.
Okay. They're gonna make
I
some.
have alcohol in my weapon, so we could really set this place on fire.
Honestly, just thought I could mount the thing and do it at the same time.
Wow. The first Velociraptor rolled a 19 and it has a +1. So one of them is fine. Second one only rolls an 11. And Archiesaurus rolls a natural 5.
I will say I was trying to position this in such a way that if it encouraged Archiesaurus to go, it was going to be to kind of train ahead.
Roll 1d10.
One.
So when it gets to its turn, one of the Velociraptors is going to flee in a random direction. Roll 1d10 again.
2.
The Archiesaurus is going to be panicked and confused and do nothing. To be honest, of the options, not the worst.
Yes, it's probably the best.
I had you roll on the confusion table, the spell confusion, so there were worse options. All right. So that was your turn, which will have interesting effects in moments to come. Now the smaller of the two creatures is looking around and it is going to dart forward. So this streaming ball of light zooms through the air, and it zooms right past. It's going to go right past Auric, provoke an opportunity attack for you to hear a thing. So it flies through the air past you, and again you hear that. You hear, our rake. Where is our rake? Silver. Silver and gold. Iron. He commands, and where is our rake? Save us, little silver. Save us in feathers and blood. And then it reaches out a tiny hand and touches Zyra, and Zyra needs to make a wisdom saving throw. And here's that message.
12?
A 12. Let's take a look. I have a bunch of extra windows open because I wanted combat.
Welcome.
So you rolled a 12?
Mm-hmm. Roll a 10 plus 2.
So, this creature reaches out to you, and there is this explosion of dust. No, sorry. It has to do this to someone else. I didn't Cheesaurus. It can't get up there. In that case, Auric needs to make a wisdom saving throw.
Well, I'm in trouble. Oh, 15.
All right. So of all this dust in your face, and for just a second, you feel this weird, like, it's vertigo, but instead of like the world like swimming and looming and being strange, it's like your body suddenly like spinning and looming and being strange. And then there's this like shoving force that comes out of this cloud of silver dust disperses, and you are okay.
Sounds like centering prayer.
All right, it is Lexi's turn.
All right. Lexi is totally out of her, not necessarily her comfort zone, but out of her like depths of knowledge here.
Hit it with beer. Hit it with beer.
Beer.
What is closest to Lexi that she can hit with beer? Lexi cares about.
Well,
Probably the little pixie thing next to Auric.
Okay. I'm gonna take a whack at that one.
It's basically the thing in the Dresden series, right?
What? What is?
The
Oh, that's so sad. It was a natural one. There is no beer.
So you swing at this thing like it's a whack-a-mole machine, and it darts to the side, and you're close enough now. Even though it's very small, you can see like, there is madness in this eyes.
Oh, fun.
Does it have a brand?
It's very small and it's already glowing, so it would be hard to tell. You'd have to like get in there. This thing's like smaller than a Barbie doll.
Yeah.
Smaller than a baby.
That's the one that
This wasn't the
disappeared.
baby.
Sorry, I was very off on
This
sizes
is the
here.
little one.
So when you swing at this one, it locks eyes with you for a second. And the eyes are just
So it's the realm?
and it's just muttering over and over. Where is our rake? Where is our rake? Help us! Where is our rake?
He needs to clean up the leaves.
Do you want to do anything else with your turn?
No, I don't think so.
All right. It is the frightened Velociraptor's turn, and it's going to use its movement to run away.
Run, college student, run!
It's like
Go
good.
find your coffee.
There's free food on the table over there.
It just like died. Go ahead. Oh, I think I said something.
Books.
It's been wide-eyed since it doesn't think that was. Like, it just this incredibly loud, rasping, growling yell, and it just went, and then it just turned and fast as it can.
Read it. They're traumatized enough as it is.
The other one, which was not affected, is going to sort of arc up and put Lexi between it and the smaller creature.
All right, it's your time.
All right. It tries to bite you. Only gets it. Oh, it has advantage. Should have rolled them both. It. Yep. That's a 22 and a 23 to hit. So it has you pinned. This insane creature talking about a rake to the other side of you, and you have now this Velociraptor attacking from the other side. It's hard to focus on both of them. Whew. There's just this flurry of teeth and claws. You take 12 points of damage.
Holy shit.
Did you rage?
Did not rage. I should have raged. 4 hit points.
And if you rage next turn, it'd be like you have 8 hit points.
Please doing human work then.
All right. That's going to put us all the way back to the top. That disappeared is... Whoops. Paris is no longer charmed. The creature that disappeared is going to fly invisibly through the air. And then... Yeah, it's going to take a shot atop the Archiesaurus.
Yes.
Whew. Oh. He rolled a crit. It does 1 damage. You take 2 damage. You need to make a Constitution saving throw.
Oh, con save. That's a straight 6. But I'm mounted.
So first, you're poisoned for 1 minute,
Okay.
but you also failed to save by. Okay. What'd you say your result was?
6.
Okay, good. The other rider didn't have it. You were 1 point above what would have really. So it does pop back into sight, hanging in the air, about even with Zyra on top of Archiesaurus, and it's about 15 feet from Archiesaurus and about 20 or 30 feet from the rest of you. We're not going to worry about doing any Pythagorean nonsense about flying. All right. Turn. It has shot, and it's fly further away. So it's moving sort of back more towards the entrance to put distance between you and it. That is its turn. It is Cyrus's.
How far away?
The Dryad is now about 50 away from you, but you have an Archosaurus between you and it. If he wasn't literally huge, it would be a concern, but he's a big boy.
All right.
Notice, like, you probably have seen Archie around, times you've popped your blues. Lexi and Zyra both know this. Archie's a big guy, and you notice that this T-Rex is in fact just a little, it's hard to tell in a creature that big, but you get maybe there's some.
With a full present.
Yes, this is a full figured. She is a thick T-Rex.
There's no K on that.
Nope, double C.
Double C.
All right.
What? Sorry, yeah.
All right. Well, I was going to use steady aim, but not if I can't see it. So can I move to the... If I hide before this, can I get advantage?
Yes. You'll need something to hide behind.
There's
So would it be possible to like move to the edge of the T-Rex and hide and then out and shoot the Dryad?
Yes. You're probably going to end up taking an opportunity attack from one of the other two creatures. In terms of formation, basically you or Zyra are kind of in a line as you move to the back of their sort of cluster.
Okay.
Not Zyra, you, Lexi, and Auric are in a line. The Velociraptor is to the north of Lexi, the smaller Fae south of her, and to get over to Archie, you're going to have to pass around one of them, probably.
Okay.
Actually, no, you could do it. You would just have to like really arc it. Yeah, you can make that work.
Okay.
As long as it's within its movement, dude.
Yeah. I don't think an opportunity attack.
Right, yeah.
Exactly enough movement to, like swing all the way around.
Okay. All right. So is that stealth first?
Yep.
Dirty 20.
She's gonna see how you're doing.
I hexed her wisdom.
Oh. You feel hidden. That's one of my favorite mercerisms that I'm absorbing. You feel like you're pretty well hidden.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna shoot her.
All right.
So is that with advantage?
Yep, because you're hidden.
Okay. So that is going to be a 24 to hit.
That will hit.
That's 19. So, oh, that's 4. Hex. Another 2. And sneak attack. Another total of 12.
Yay!
How do you want to do it?
Was she?
She seemed to be trying to make it to the trees along the edge of this area.
Okay. I was like, if her back is to me, I'm putting the arrow through the brand. But
Back would be towards you.
Okay.
You definitely hit. We're gonna call this a trick shot. You definitely connect.
Okay.
Roll again with disadvantage, and if you connect, you specifically put it across the brand, and if not, you just kill her.
Okay. What am I? I'm rolling the attack with this.
Yeah, roll the attack with disadvantage.
Okay. Roll 14 both times. That's going to be 19 total.
It looks terrible. For a second, you think that you have killed her. You line up this shot. You're like trying to get between the legs of the Archosaurus, and because of this this screaming noise, it's really confused and disoriented, and the tail is like, and you're having to like, but you manage to kind of like jump across and fire. It shoots out between the Archosaurus's legs, and right as it's about to just like full on catch, she must hear it, and she turns, and it like scours like a 1.5 inch long groove across the back of this brand. It looks horrible, like wood chips and this opalescent fluid just spray, and she screams and she stumbles, and that's all you see for now. She falls to her knees.
Okay.
All right. It is her turn. She is non-functional. She is not dead, but she's not in a good place right now. It is the Archosaurus's turn, and this is the first turn since Rick did his crazy thing, right? So this is the turn he does not move or act. He just kind of tail everywhere. Not actually hitting you, but it's really making your life uncomfortable. Right? You're just like,
It's like the mechanic. Just hold on.
you got a hold of like a little like nub on its back, like a little ridge, and it's got the red spiral on it, trying to not process what you're holding on to.
Yeah.
So he's shaking around, and it's Zyra's turn.
Fabulous. I've lost track of the two Fae who are floating. No, either A, which of them are visible, and B, which of them are more aggressive.
Both are visible. One is now behind you. It's got Lexi pinned between the Velociraptor and itself. It's the one that's been muttering about the rake. The other one that shot you has sort of flown sort of further away and they're both visible. You are also poisoned. This will be disadvantage on attack and ability checks.
Well, that won't have an effect with Vicious Mockery.
Nope.
Which is what I'm going to cast on the one that...
I think you might save the most health by giving Doctor disadvantage. I think it hits the hardest.
I'll do that then. That sounds good. Velociraptor. So I'm going to cast Vicious Mockery on the Velociraptor.
All right.
It needs to make a Wisdom save of 14.
It gets an 8.
The damage die would not have disadvantage on it.
No.
It will take 2 damage. And while I'm at it, I'm going to use my last spell slot. And word on Lexi.
Appreciate.
Which gains 5 hit points back.
Yay.
This is not much, but it's not.
That's the double digit.
Is there anything I can do?
Because the Archosaurus is not domesticated, he's just going to do his own thing.
I just didn't know there was something I needed to add.
He's just going to do his own thing if his turn rolls back around.
Cool. I just wanted to make something I was missing. That'll be the end of my turn.
It's Aura's turn.
All right. Is there any way to line up the two that are flanking Lexi without also getting Lexi in that line?
No, because they are in a line. Like, she is the middle point.
That's kind of what I figured. In that case, I'm going to upcast Magic Missile and 2 to each Fae.
All right.
So 2 bolts to the gibbering and to the other one.
Oh, man. So many things are about to happen. Make a history check. Something about a rake. It's sticking in your head, and you can't remember why it's important. Your bolts to each creature instantly destroy both of those.
Yeah.
Now it becomes a very interesting exercise in physics because one of them had polymorphed Archie into the Archosaurus. So concentration is broken on a he's dead. So
Hold on, Zyra.
Zyra, make a dexterity saving throw.
Oh, 23.
I'm good.
I do a backflip. Oh, it's been the most beautiful thing you've seen all night.
You don't do a backflip, you do a backhand spring.
Right. With a yeah.
So I think you put it together just a second before the magic missiles hit what's about to happen. Because you've really studied fairy tales, and you know that dryads are not really known for turning humans into things.
Well, and
but
also, when the dryad was hit, nothing happened to Archie.
but you like, pixies are actually really well known people into things. And so when you're about to hit, you go, oh, and immediately start ejecting from the Archie wheel. Oh no, you're poisoned. You have disadvantage.
Oh, I need a saving throw, right?
Is a saving throw an ability check?
Well, this would be.
I rolled as a saving throw.
Let me double check. D&D Beyond, not always laid out in the most helpful way. I searched saving throws, and it was like, did you mean saving throws?
You maybe.
Unclear. Tentatively say that it does not apply.
Okay. I rolled it as a saving throw.
So yes, you do manage to manage to get off without like playing as a battered and bloodied Archie. Just suddenly, like the creature, Archie sort of just almost seems to implode, and pop, out comes Archie and just hits the ground. He doesn't fall quite as far as you because you were sort of on top, but he was also in very bad health. Archie seems to be unconscious now. All right.
I'm also going to kind of sheep look around for a rake. I'm assuming it would not be very obvious if they were looking for it.
I mean, we just watched Bridgerton. Now I'm looking for a young old man who is with his affections with women.
So definitely not looking for a gardening tool, right?
No, I'm looking for the Duke of Hastings.
So I would say at this point, all of the creatures that were maintaining this sort of collective transformation on these students pops. All of them have been either killed or incapacitated, and so suddenly the Velociraptors, much the same as Archie, just sort of pop. And you're looking at two college students. One is wearing like a university sweater with the Raven logo.
Just as college.
The other one, it looks like it was her sorority day.
Oh, she's got her letters on.
Yeah. She's the one who's away and is now unconscious.
Makes sense.
Do they fade out like the previous ones did?
Right, because they faded when they fell.
It's not like an instantaneous thing. After a moment, you see them start to.
Okay. What about Archie? Does he stay in put?
Archie seems to stay put, which is a little weird. So I'm gonna make one last. I'll save that for a minute. So the slate now, you have two slowly disappearing college students. You have two dead fae, who are just this side of exploded. Because one of them has 2 points and the other has 1. The Dryad is still like on the ground up ahead of you.
She's like Lydia when you hit her. She gets it. She's taking a knee.
Yeah, she still looks real bad. Like there's still like visible stuff running down the back of her neck. What do y'all want to do?
Even though I'd be like more interested in, I want Archie to like live. And the reason we were down here, I'm actually more curious about the Dryad herself.
All right.
Run towards her.
All right. So you run over, and as you get closer, you can see. Yeah, she is in very bad shape. She was not particularly sturdy to begin with, and she took very solid hits, backed up by whatever this strange magic is that Cyrus uses. And that last hit, I mean, it didn't kill her, but it looks really bad. A human, this would be lethal for sure. You're a little more on this sort of non-humanoid biology.
So I can't do anything.
Are you wanting to sort of?
I like want to get down on her level and ask.
Check.
A friend, like I'm wondering what I can figure out by being as possible. It's not like I can do anything much more than the medicine check on like putting leaves against the back of her neck. It's not like a healing spell left. And so, like I want to ask her. So, is there anything left? Is there anything you want to say to anyone else? Anything you need to tell someone?
Go ahead and make the deck just to kind of evaluate, less you like trying to, or just figuring out like what's she at.
There's nothing.
Only because you are semi-versed in, you know, it's better than the average random humanoid.
And I'd be saying it in Sylvan since that's the language.
Yeah. You get the impression that she's not in imminent threat of death. Like, she's going to be greatly diminished for a while. A fate's health and their power are very closely intertwined. Like she's about to kill her. But she does still seem disoriented, and she's in a bit of a daze. As you come towards her, you can see very clearly now. You know, she's forward like this. The leaves of her hair kind of split or draping down in front of her, and you can see clearly the back of her neck, the same sit, the exact one you saw on the hounds. You can actually wear sort of layers of things that have happened to her. So you see the sigil, you see some of that sort of almost radiation burn like damage you had seen on the hounds. It looks like your cure helped with that. And then you see where Cyrus' arrow just tore a big chunk out of the back of her neck.
So, would it be possible for me to look around and see if there's any, like, bark chips that all are holding the sigil?
Make an investigation check. pick out a couple of like the blood chunks of blood, sappy chunks of wood.
Covered. Yeah.
It seems like it hit hard enough, and just because of the nature of wood, the way it hit, it's splintered, and so it's not like there's your you can't find enough of them that you could have something whole. And the leaves aren't helping. There's leaves everywhere. Immediately, like, swallowed. And now the leaves are just sort of stirring at random, it seems. Like, she's sort of lost. She's not focused and controlling whatever this is. It's just like a random burst of leaves. And then, like, one or two leaves just float by. And then, like, an explosion of leaves off to the side for no reason.
Would I be able to look and see? The sigil is now still branded in the back of her.
Yes.
Okay. Can I tell that it's the same sigil as what was on the hounds?
Yes. So it's mostly intact, really. It's just a chunk has been sort of scoured across the middle. I mean, it's it's this big.
Okay. Wait. Okay. Hello, creature.
I mean, it's humanoid shaped. It's covering like the whole back of her neck.
Okay. So we can assume that I would recognize it the next time I see it.
You've seen it multiple times, because you think you got a pretty good idea. You could pick this out. They're made to be deceptive.
Would I be able to draw a copy of it when I got back to my office?
Yes. And just to clarify, like, it wouldn't have. You really could like perfectly master this. You could potentially evoke some of this same magic out of it. You don't have that level of grasp on it, but it's like for unification purposes without much difficulty. So as you're kind of getting close and looking around, she finally seems to like, and she sees you, and not to you specifically, but as she sort of falls backwards, her eyes are huge and frantic and confused, and they're sort of everywhere at once, and she spits words and scrambles backwards, and the word is tuath.
Oh dear.
And she like and then just like is backpedaling as hard as she can.
For my personal notes, how would to be spelled?
U-A-T-H-A.
Yep.
T-U-A.
T.
Can I go splash a little water on see if I can have some?
Yes. We'll call this a low medicine check.
Okay.
I'll go help Cyrus.
When I need help with. Cool.
All right. So this is actually beyond splashing water. You like, you are.
This poor dude.
You know what you know. You like reach into like one of your mini pockets and you pull out this little like container that you sort of snap and hold under his nose, and he zounds. Wait, where am I? What? There's a lot of confusion going around.
Sure, I'm still wearing his face too.
It takes him a second to realize that, and he just like goes pale, and then he surprises you. He leans in and is like, "My!" And he like reaches out and is like touching his face, like, "That is the most remarkable glamour. This is fantastic. what sort of spell work is this? He's like turning your jaw, like making sure you've got all the details right.
What are you doing?
What's
So-
a scholar? Always a scholar.
Basically.
One thing that does surprise you is, especially Zyra and Lexi, something doesn't hear exactly the way you would expect. I mean, yes, Archie is definitely like, that's kind of his personality. He would notice things like that, but also after that initial shock, he seems to have bounced back much faster than you would expect. And this part, not as much Lexi, but Auric and Zyra, you would catch this. Archie is a scholar. His background is specifically like certain kinds of historical artifacts, and the way that he's talking about this is weirdly specific. He's not saying, "Oh, what is this magic? What is this?" He looks at this and immediately knows this is an illusion spell. This is a glamour. This is someone who has magically adopted my appearance. And then it's that weird difference of someone like who knows how a car, like really knows how a car works, and they open the hood and start looking inside. That's how he responded.
So, would I notice this as a difference from what I knew about him before?
It definitely strikes you as odd. Magic is sort of adjacent to his area of study, but you've always had the impression that he was not specifically knowledgeable in this way.
All right, so so Cyrus will say, I apologize. Not all the details were clear. We hadn't met before, and I'm gonna drop both the sky itself and the mantle, and excuse me for a moment, and I'm gonna look past him at the dryad and say in Sylvan, what were you searching for?
You're trying to say this somewhat serious thing, and literally as soon as you like drop the glamour and start talking, you realize that Archie has already stood up and is like checking out your jacket. Like he's like flipping around. He's like, "This is marvelous construction. What era is this from? There's some kind of fabrication effect. This is marvelous. There's illusion and transmutation," and he's just like doing a whole thing, and it's Archie is not being good with boundaries right now. And when you speak to her, Zyra, you're close enough, like she like recoils and is not I mean there's a real like compounding shock happening here. No, don't hurt me. I think we were supposed to take something from this mortal place. I don't know where we are. We were supposed to come to a place and to take something, and then she's literally like, as she's sort of having this semi panic attack here, you can actually see her leaves are like wilting, not like she's dying. Not to worry you all on that front. But you gather that her some of these features have they sort of reflect her inner state, and
She's distressed.
yeah, just greatly distressed. The leaves are starting to like turn brown, and some of them are falling. Her feet, now that she's like in this sort of panic mode, are rooting into the ground as she sort of sits here. She is not just panicked, but she is terrified of you.
She's treeing.
She's what?
She's treeing.
Yes.
I'm, I think, the only one in the party who doesn't speak Sylvan, but I can recognize a panic attack, so I'm going to go over to try and comfort her a little bit.
She does give you kind of a strange look. Like it's something she can't place, but then that moment passes. And she's just kind of like, I was in Fairy. I was in my forest. And then there was a call, and I had to go. I had to go. And he wanted books and things, items of some kind. And we were supposed to come here, and no one was supposed to see us or to know. But and she gestures at Archie, who is not at all clued into this conversation and is still like checking out bits of Cyrus's coat. The mortal came in, and I panicked, and I took him, and then more mortals and more mortals, and there was so many of them, and they had mortal weapons, and one of them had a burning light in his chest, and so I didn't mean to, but I guess I pulled us here. And are you going to let me go?
Yes.
Who's she asking?
Yeah.
She's mostly talking to Zyra.
Okay.
She's
Mortal light in a chest.
one of the mortal knights. He came with the other knights with their weapons, and there was a fire in him, and there was too many things, and then there was you all, and
Cyrus is gonna like swat Archie at this point and be like,
my fabulous.
yeah, I'll show you all the tricks later. Focus. What would somebody want to steal from you?
Well, I have many rare texts, and he sort of looks over and says, huh.
What's in those boxes?
An acquaintance of mine Oh, Dr. Skylark, I'm so glad you're well. I'm so sorry I missed the lecture. I was, I suppose, a dinosaur. Ah. An acquaintance of mine had asked for my advice about some strange incidents that had occurred lately, and I was doing some research, and I had pieced it together, and I had put together some resources for him, including some items of a similar nature, and I was supposed to meet with one of his associates today, and I was going to hand off the materials. But I came back to my office and I don't remember much after that.
Who are you supposed to meet with?
Another patron of a fine establishment that I frequent, and he looks and goes, "Lexi?"
Sup, Archie? Glad to see you're better.
My thanks.
Do you see the things that you collected here?
I'd have to go through the boxes. I had quite a few items set out for Steve. He's a bit of an investigator.
Oh, you mean Steve? I gave him the last name. Steve Barnes.
Oh, yes, Steve Barnes.
You met him at my party the night.
Steve sent me. Pleasure to meet you, Doctor.
Well, this is rather strange. And you see him stop himself. His brain goes, "Ooh, gold and silver dragon person," and he starts to want to head over there and goes, "Nope, not the time."
I'm gonna try to steer him towards his desk.
Oh yes. The boxes. Goes over, and he starts sort of looking through, and he says, "Most of the items are still here. There's someone's been stealing certain rare storms of arcane importance, which is not, I suppose, in and of itself uncommon in this strange world we live in. But it was very particular sorts of materials. It wasn't. Steve helped me to come across some of the lists of things that were missing, and I was able to reach out to some of my own contacts, and as strange as it seems, someone is stealing practice magic equipment, introductory grimoires, and low-level magical devices meant to the training wheels of magic, if you will. Someone has been stealing these sorts of things, and Zyra, are you still over by the Dryad, or have you followed?
I will assume I've stood up and walk towards the desk.
He says, "I'm afraid I owe Dr. Skylark and you, Lexi, a bit of an apology. My name is Dr. Archibald Moore. That's not my full name. My name is Archibald Harold more blackthorn.
What is it?
I will write it out. It's long. Because of unusual circumstances relating to my relationships with the rest of my family, I not to disparage my mother in any way, but both to protect myself and at the wishes of the rest of my family, I have been living without the latter half of that hyphenate for reasons you might be able to imagine. Everybody, make your best of history or arcana.
Man, they better have
Well,
a
that's a
fan
decent
now.
15.
10.
Oh, not too shabby. Considering I have a negative.
Plus, I rolled a 3.
So we'll chalk this up to, I think Zyra is still sort of trying to keep an eye on and just kind of make sure she's okay. Sort of an empathetic, not fully detaching there. So your brain doesn't really process what he's saying. What did Zyra get? 10. Okay. To you, you've run into some blackthorns before, but right at this moment, in this strange circumstance, you can't quite place it. But Eric was doing a little bit of research that Steve had suggested to prepare for this case. And Lexi, your bar is sort of just central to a lot of the weird stuff that goes on in town. So you've run into the blackthorns before. Most of them are pretty unbearable. The blackthorns are essentially currently the most famous family and school wizardry in Queensboro and much of the world. Basically, they were keepers of arcane lore and resources and tradition going all the way back to the Sundering. And basically, they hid this information away because while the realms were apart, magic was diminishing. And so spells were less powerful. And so they knew that what they had was important, but if they had revealed it, they weren't in a position to defend it. And so for generations, they carefully passed down all of this knowledge, spellcraft, all of the artifacts and books and tomes and lore. And then finally, as the realms started to come back together, all of it started working again and working 100%. And suddenly, they were sitting on the largest arcane tile in the hands of any mortals that anyone knows of. And they've parlayed that into almost sort of they're sort of a magical first family. The head of the family and some PR people, it's not uncommon for them to pop up on morning television and to write editorials. And they literally have a school that's been set up on like the outtown in an old manor house. They're basically wizarding.
Kennedys.
Yeah.
Camelot. I know my 20th century history.
And I will leave on two things. Man, this is why my sessions run for so long, because I just want to like hear it. So two things happen. Archie says, even though I am what you might call persona non grata with much of the Blackthorn family. I do still have a few members that I am at least on speaking terms with. And from what I have gathered, it appears that someone has specifically been targeting members of the circle, members of my family, to acquire this. The second thing, poor Auric, you're a little distracted while this is happening, and you just keep thinking, rake. Why a rake? And finally, a name comes back to you. One of your old neighbors from Fairy, Mort the Moat.
Mort!
And as it comes back to you, you look down and see the blasted and destroyed remains of Moat dissolving into light and returning to Fairy.
Does that mean I know where that is? Because you came up with that name. Yeah, I know exactly where that came from because you weren't right. I figured it had to do with the French book you were reading.
It was just a throwaway reference in the first session. I wrote it down, Mort the Moat, the rake.
I guess you're having a girl from Mort today.
I have just one last thing. I'm not really up on most Sylvan language. Did I hear her right that she said it hard?
That is about what you would hear. So, with Archie's relation of his strained family dynamics, the space around you is starting to blur and fade oddly. It's sort of simultaneously the elements around you are becoming more and more transparent, and it's almost like the space is straining and pulling inward, and the room is starting to return to its natural state. And the last thing we see as the forest fades, the poor blasted corpse of Mort the Moat.
I was about to ask the Dryad. Is she staying in the fairy realm or is she coming with us?
You all will find out next time.
All right.
She still has my sweater.
She came with us. You have more. You have a whole collection.
All right. So we'll do it again next week. I'm going to go ahead and kill the stream.
Fabulous.